Welcome to the Next Step Recovery podcast. We call this More Than Recovery because addiction is so much more than just getting clean from our addictions, our strongholds. It's really finding our purpose in life, and that's what we're here for each and every day. I like to say that we have three purposes here at the Next Step Recovery podcast. The first purpose is to encourage people, to encourage those who are struggling in their addiction, or just in life. It doesn't have to be an addiction, it could be anything. So we want to encourage you. Number two, we want to educate you. We want to help you help other people. We want to help you help others. And then finally, we want to expand our reach. We want to expand our impact. We want to expand our partners. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to a great show. Oh, hey, Robert.
What's going on?
We're back,
yes.
And we're going to talk about another topic today. We're going to talk about low self-esteem.
Yeah.
You like that topic, huh?
Yeah, it's a very personal topic for me.
Okay.
Yeah. So
you're how old? How old are you, Robert?
I'm 24 years old.
Okay. So you were telling me earlier that, you feel like your generation has a problem with low self-esteem.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll talk about that because that would make sense to me. It's interesting, and I'm sure at one time I was, believe it or not, I'm 58. At one time I was 18.
Yeah. Yeah.
At one time I was 14. And you think about back to when you're a teenager and you're not.
It's a rough time.
It is. You don't think you look right. Your hair's not right. I got pimples.
Yeah.
Do girls like me? They don't like me. Am I cool? I'm not a jock. Where do I fit in?
Yeah.
And really, it's a tough time.
Yep, it is.
You're 24. Obviously, yeah, you're getting older, but still, you're still working through things, right? You're
Absolutely.
still, and then so we're going to talk about low self-esteem or self-esteem. What is it? What drives it? Children, adults. And let me say this first of all. A lot of people would say, "Well, Todd, as a Christian, should we be talking about our self-esteem, low self-esteem versus self-confidence?
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of worldly?" And I would say no. I would say that God is very intentional about telling us to take care of ourselves.
Yep.
He gave Israel hundreds of laws on how to take care of themselves and to be holy, right? But it also to take care of themselves physically and medically and emotionally and spiritually, certainly, right?
Absolutely.
And Jesus said that you're to love your neighbor as you love who?
Yourself.
As you love yourself, because God knows we love ourselves, and we need to take care of ourselves. And so, should I put myself first? Well, the Bible tells me, in so many words, that I'm really to put others first.
Others first, yeah.
But putting others first, and this is going to sound like an oxymoron, putting others first means I got to put myself first. And what do you mean by that, Todd? Well, if you go on an airplane, on a commercial airliner, and the flight attendant's going to give you instructions, and she's going to say, in case we lose pressure in the cabin, your oxygen masks are going to fall from overhead. And when they do, if you have a small child with you, make sure you put yours on first. And then you put the child's on. And that's not because you're being selfish. That's so you can take care of the child.
Yep.
Right? Because if I put the child's on first and the oxygen is low and then I'm going to pass out, I can't take care of the child. So I got to take care of me in order to put people first.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So sometimes it kind of sounds funny. I got to put myself first in order to put you first.
Yeah, you gotta make sure that you're okay before you can help other people be okay.
If I'm going to take care of my wife, I got to take care of me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So I got to go to the gym. I got to do those things. You're right. And so it's so we have to be, yes, we know what the Bible says, but what does that mean practically? So when we're talking about self-esteem, we're going to, some of those things come into play here.
Yeah.
Okay. So self-esteem here is self-esteem by definition out of Merriam-Webster's definition of self-esteem. It's or low self or self-esteem in general. It's going to be a confidence and satisfaction in oneself, self-respect. It's a subjective sense of self-worth. What do I mean by subjective?
I mean,
it's not concrete.
Yeah.
It's based on factors. It's not based on concrete. 1 + 1 is
2.
Okay. Objectively, 1 + 1 is 2. Right? Yeah. Something's subjective. Well, there may have been 4 or 5 there. I kind of eyeballed it, right? I'm not real sure.
Yeah.
It's subjective on what I thought I saw. So our self-esteem, how we see ourselves, is subjective based on other factors around us. And so sometimes we're going to see our worth or our value based on what other people think.
Absolutely.
What I think, all those things. So it's a level of confidence that I have in my abilities or my perceived abilities or my attributes. If you put me on the basketball court with the LA Lakers, my level of confidence in doing well is probably going to be low.
Yeah, absolutely.
So my attitude has got to be, I'm just going to go out here and have fun.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, I get to play with the Lakers, Yeah. When I was growing up, the center for Houston Rockets and he went to the 76ers later, Philadelphia, was a guy named Moses Malone. Moses Malone was NBA champion, NBA All-Star, center in the NBA. He was one of the greats. Yep. He died a couple of years ago, but he's from my hometown. And I used to go up at nights when he was home in the off season. He would play basketball on the courts up the road from my house, Lee Park. And man, we'd get out there under the street lights and play basketball all night, and he would be up there playing basketball with us. But my level of confidence, when if I had to guard him, was not very high. No. The guy was 6'10".
Yeah, he's super tall.
Yeah. So anyway, there are some influences, Robert. There are some influences that impact our self-esteem. Or there's some things I should say that self-esteem will impact. Let me just put it that way. Our motivation, right? If I have low self-esteem, what happens to my motivation?
It goes in the toilet.
Yeah, right. If I have low self-esteem, what happens to my mental state sometimes?
That also goes down rapidly.
Yep. So it affects these things. It can even affect my quality of life. If I don't have a lot of self-confidence, I have a low self-esteem. It could keep me on the couch. Yeah. It could keep me sitting in front of Netflix. Yeah. Which makes things worse.
Yeah, it does.
Makes it even too much self-esteem. So if I have high self-esteem, there's a danger in that, right? It leads to arrogance.
Yeah. See, it's funny. So when I was in middle school, I dealt with self-esteem problems, which ultimately I had some depression in there too, which was a major result of that. But now my self-confidence is through the roof. And the problem with that is I can be a little arrogant sometimes. Yeah. So that's definitely something like now that I'm like trying to balance. It's not being too arrogant with, it's not bad to have really high self-esteem and high self-confidence, but it can be very detrimental.
So what drove you think, Robert, from going from low self-esteem to, like you're saying, maybe too much?
For me,
let me talk to you about your arrogance.
Yeah, Robert. For me, it was getting out of my own head. Because when I was dealing with major self-esteem issues, it was very much comparing myself to other people and stuff. And like I was in my own head in that. So I was sitting there, I was looking at other people like, oh man, like they're they look better than me. Like they're more good looking than I am. They're getting all the attention and all that stuff. So I was very much in my own head. So when I, was in high school and when I got into college and stuff, I was like, I made the decision on my part to say, I'm going to get out of my own head on this and actually attempt to,
that's good.
Push my self-confidence up than to push it down. And I was very much successful. And
I had to grab the bull by the horns and say,
pull yourself up by the bootstraps and go for it. So that was very much in my case, what was, what I had to do. So it was a decision on my part to not do that anymore. But sometimes it's not that easey for some people. So
right. Mm-hmm. I've got to take control of my thinking. Yep. I tell this to guys at Next Step all the time. You're in control of your thinking.
Yeah, that's right.
Don't let other people control your thinking, your emotions. You're in control of your thoughts. Yep. Stop letting your thoughts and your emotions control you. Mm-hmm. grab those thoughts and those emotions by the horns.
Yep.
Now, I'm not saying they're not legitimate. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying you've got to not let them carry you to places that are wrong, that are false, that are lies.
Absolutely.
Because most low self-esteem issues are lies. We're not as bad as we think we are.
Yeah.
And if we get arrogant, we're not as good
we're not
as we think we are, right? You know, so we're not as bad as we think we are. We're not as good in too much self-esteem as we think we are. So there's some elements then of self-esteem in general, right? So some things that are related to how we see ourselves, confidence, and confidence is going to be situational, right?
Yeah.
The more we do these podcasts, the more confident I become.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. The more we do, the more you and I interact, the more natural it seems.
Yeah.
Right. We just did a podcast with Jesse, and Jesse told me, he said the whole time I was here, my anxiety was sky high. Why? Because his confidence. But when he watches the podcast, he's going to go,
I didn't do bad.
Hey, that was pretty good. Pretty good. Man, I want to do another one. Yeah. Everybody does a podcast. Yeah. They say, man, because they knew what they were feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But when they saw it on YouTube, they were like, you can't even tell.
Yeah, you can't tell. Yeah.
Right. How many times have you taught a class and been really nervous and everybody's, man, that was great. You did a great job. And you're like, whoa, man.
It didn't seem that way.
Oh, man. The whole time I had butterflies in my stomach and I felt like I was stumbling over my words, you know, but nobody really knows.
Yeah, public speaking doesn't get, I feel like sometimes it doesn't really get any easier.
No,
it doesn't. That anxiety kind of still stays in the back of your head a little bit. You just know how to manage it better.
Right. Yeah, your expectations. So confidence, and then you got feelings of security, right? You know, that's why children struggle with low self-esteem. Little children struggle because they lack security in a lot of areas. You know, when my grandchildren come over the house, they're familiar with that. So they jump right in. They feel very secure. Yeah. So they're running all over the house. But if I take them out someplace that they don't know, they're clinging to me, right? Identity. Man, how do I see myself? This is where as Christians, we got to know where our identity comes. Absolutely. Our identity comes from Christ. Yep. And when I can settle my identity, that it's not in how I look, how I sound, how I grew up, it's in Christ. Yep. He saved me. I'm his child. I shared with the guys at Next Step yesterday or Tuesday. I said, you stop labeling yourself as addicts. You're children of God who struggle with an addiction. Yeah. Stop labeling yourself as a criminal. You're a child of God who has struggled with crime. Yeah. Stop labeling yourself as a loser. You know, you're a child of God who's made some bad decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And when we start to, because when we when we identify with those things, we become those things. Yeah. So if you're struggling with low self-esteem, who are you? Yeah. Are you a child of God? Or are you what you think you are? And
that's big.
Yeah. So a sense of belonging, community, a sense of community, church. Who are you hanging around? Yeah. If you're hanging, I counseled with a family a while back. They had a teenager who was hanging around other teenagers who were not in a good spot emotionally, relationally, and they were dragging him down. Yeah. And my comment to them was, you got to get him away from these kids. They're dragging him down. They're just dragging him down. And then finally, you know, competence. Again, like we were using the podcast here, that we feel more confident because we feel more competent. Yeah. Right. I've been in the world of addiction for 20 years. When I first got into this field, I wasn't very confident all the time in what I was saying, what I was doing. Now, you know, a lot of times let me tell you, you know, I can just, you know, I can't fix you, but I can tell you what's going on. Yeah, right. Absolutely. So you build confidence, you build competence, and that builds confidence as well. So we said, you know, children, what is self-esteem usually like in children?
I mean, I think it's normally pretty,
pretty low.
Yeah.
You know, you were talking about as a teenager, you know, how middle schooler. You know,
middle school's a rough time I feel like for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, there's so much things going on in your brain trying to figure out where you are, like what you're trying to do. You know, stuff's going on with your body's
changing, like your chemicals.
It's a crazy time for everybody with that.
Yeah, you're not sure what you are, how you are, who you are, where you're going. You're not sure about anything.
Yeah, when you're, you know, if you're a guy, you know, like you have that, you know, you're starting to get attracted to females and stuff like that. It's a crazy time.
Now, if I have a world that's telling me that I'm not even sure if you're a guy or a girl,
that makes it a whole lot worse.
You want to talk about setting somebody up for mental health disaster.
Yeah, and you wonder why mental health is, you know, problems are so high nowadays.
Right. The mental health issues don't come from, well, he thinks he's a guy, but he thinks he's a girl. Therefore, his mental health is suffering because he's not in the right body. No, his mental health is suffering because he's lacking confidence that he's anything.
Yeah.
He's not being told the truth.
Yeah, and it's interesting because they know that age, that timeline,
right? It's a very confusing time.
Yeah, that they can be persuaded to do anything.
So because my confidence is so low, my self-esteem is so low, I can tell you anything in those years, and if you think it's going to help how you feel emotionally,
then you'll take on to that. Yeah,
and huge regrets down the road. Huge regrets down the road. Yeah,
it's crazy.
So in children, you know, there's a lack of maturity. There's a lack of experience. You know, children aren't experienced in a lot of things. They're unsure in their surroundings. Right. Adults, low self-esteem. We're unsure of our abilities.
Yeah, that's a big one.
We have physical ailments that cause us to have low self-esteem. The older people can get real low self-esteem because we get older, things don't work correctly anymore. I can't get around like I used to.
Yeah.
I don't have the confidence that I used to have. I some of that happens to me.
Yeah.
At Christmas time, my wife wanted me to climb a ladder to put a thing on a Christmas tree. I couldn't do it because my back hurt so bad. I couldn't do it. I had no confidence that I could balance myself on that ladder. And I felt, you know, to me, I felt less than.
Yeah.
Because here my wife wanted me to do something for it, and I couldn't do it because my back.
Your body wouldn't let you.
My body wouldn't let me.
Yeah.
And you feel less than. You feel like I'm letting her down.
Yeah.
You know, so we all go through it. Failed relationships can lead to low self-esteem. Relationships that fall apart. That's it. I'm done. I'm not going to engage anymore with a female or a male if you're a lady, and you quit. You give up.
Yeah.
We feel unloved, unwanted. If you grow up in a home that's abusive, you're going to have self-esteem issues.
Yep.
And then we try to compensate for those by how? How do we try to compensate for our low self-esteem issues? By fitting in with the crowd.
No, the wrong crowd most of the time.
That's right. The wrong crowd. Yeah. So there's a lot of things that feed into low self-esteem. Here's the truth. And I said this earlier. We're not as bad as we think we are. And we're not as good as we think we are.
Right.
Often the worst is in our heads.
Yep.
And then here's the kicker. That we kind of end with this, right? We end up comparing ourselves to other people, and social media drives that comparison.
Yeah, I will beat this drum all day long because, you know, one of my passions is students. I love students, you know, the next generation, and social media is influencing them.
Yeah.
And, you know, you see them, they're in youth group on their phones, scrolling through Instagram. We were just talking about TikTok, stuff like that. Like, it is... Social media, in my personal experience and in the experience of seeing other people go through it, is one of the leading causes of depression, anxiety. Like they're sitting there comparing themselves. They're wasting their minds away looking at Instagram reels and just scrolling mindlessly because I think that's what they want you to do.
Sure, they hook you in.
Yeah,
right.
And it is. I will beat that drum all day long. That social media is hurting you way more than it's helping you.
Yeah. Is it a tool? Can it be a good tool?
Absolutely.
Certainly. Yeah. You know, I've had this discussion. I work with a couple of consultants, for me, coaches, if you will, and we've talked about the influence of social media, and we talk about it in terms of raising money.
Yeah, they can definitely help with that.
Well, actually, the data is it's terrible at raising money, but but it's exposure, right? It's all it is exposure. It's a terrible platform for raising money, but it's an option
for getting
and mostly it's to get the word out.
Yep.
So it's a great for marketing if you use it right. But it can be if I'm a young person or even an older person, it will drive comparison. And here's what I'm doing. In my head, I'm looking at the worst of me, and on social media, I'm looking at the best of them.
Yep.
So I'm comparing the worst of me to the best of them.
Yeah, because they don't post the bad stuff. They just post, their cool vacations and stuff like that. And you're like, man, I wish I could do that.
Yeah. Nobody posted me trying to climb a ladder. My back hurting. I can't.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to post that guy. Hey, I did it.
No one's going to post that. Yeah.
Right. So in my head, I know the worst of me.
Yep.
And I'm comparing the worst of me to the best of you.
Yep.
And that is killer. That is a killer in the mind of a young person and older people and older people too. Yeah. So comparison, when we compare ourselves to other people, we're setting ourselves up for failure.
Absolutely.
Mental health failure, low self-esteem issues. We compare the worst of ourselves to the best of other people. Here are some things. Here's the problem with comparison. I'll give you, and we'll end with this. I'll give you 6 things here. The problems with comparison. First of all, comparison is unfair. It's unfair. Why? Because I just said it. My worst. I'm comparing my worst to their best.
Yeah.
Right. Number 2, it's a waste of time.
Yeah. It is.
You're comparing yourself to other people, but God made you unique.
Exactly.
He made you how he made you. He didn't make you
for
like,
a reason.
That's right. He didn't make you like Joe. He made you like you.
Yep.
The only person I should be comparing myself to is who? Christ.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. He's my standard. Right. Paul said, don't compare yourselves amongst yourselves.
Yep.
It's going to lead to disaster.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a warning in the Bible about don't compare.
They knew.
Right? It should have said, if you're on Facebook, don't compare yourself.
Yeah.
If we were writing the modern version, right?
Seriously.
Yeah. So number 1, it's unfair. Comparison's unfair. Number 2, it's a waste of time.
Absolutely.
Number 3, it breeds envy.
Yeah, wanting what other people have.
We were just talking about that, right? Yeah, man, look at that car, man,
Yeah, I want that car that they have.
Man, I got on this kick a few months ago. When growing up, I had a 1964 and a half Mustang. Well, my dad had a 1964 and a half Mustang. I drove it. I want one so bad. And all I saw all over social media were all these Mustangs and all, and
they knew.
And I was this close to buying them. I was like, I can't. I got other things that are more important, right? So, but it breeds envy. There is no end to comparison. Number 4, there's no end to. There's always going to be somebody better than you.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
There always will be somebody better than you. So it doesn't matter how much money you make, how good you look, it doesn't. There's always going to be somebody richer, better looking, more talented. Yeah. There's always going to be. So believe me, if you became a millionaire, you're going to want 2. If you make 2, you're going to want 4. If you make 4 million, you're going to want 8.
Yeah.
It doesn't end.
Yep.
It doesn't. So there's no end to comparison. Number 5, it's the wrong focus. And we just talked about this. Our focus should be Jesus.
Yep, absolutely.
That's who be like Jesus. Remember the old bands everybody used to wear?
What would Jesus do?
Well, yeah, WWJD. What would Jesus do? And that's what we need to remember. And then finally, it breeds resentment and jealousy. Yeah. In comparison, when I'm comparing myself to other people in a wrong way, I'm trading out my joy and my happiness for resentment and jealousy. Yeah. I don't want to trade that away.
No, you don't.
If I'm going to compare myself to people, I'm going to do it in a healthy way.
Yeah.
How can they make me better? How can I do things that they're doing that'll make me a better person? That'll make me a better Christian? That'll make me a better husband? That'll make me a better father? That'll make me a better grandfather? That'll make me a better podcaster? That'll make me... I will watch podcasts, not because I like the topic, but because I just want to see how they are doing it.
Yep.
I'm watching people to help me not put myself down.
Yeah.
Right? Not say, oh, I'm terrible. I'm just going to quit.
Yeah.
Be who God made you to be.
Yep.
Be who God made you to be. Be humble. Be self-aware. What do I mean by be self-aware? What would you say, Robert? I say, hey, be self-aware.
I mean, let's see,
Let me help you. All right. So self-awareness takes a lot of being very intentional about thinking about what you think about. Think about what you think about. Sometimes we just think. Self-awareness means I'm thinking about what I'm thinking about, right? Yeah. And then I'm saying, why am I here? What am I doing? Why am I saying that? Why am I angry? I'm stopping and I'm sitting back. When that emotion hits me, I'm going to sit back and say, why?
Yeah, and then you have the people who don't have self-awareness whatsoever, and they just say whatever. And
right.
A lot of times that burns bridges and stuff like that.
It's very frustrating to work with somebody who refuses to be self-aware.
Yeah.
They refuse to be self-aware. I try very hard to be self-aware. If I'm in a meeting and something is said in the meeting that makes me mad, I'm very careful to say, internally, I'm mad.
Yeah.
What are my facial expressions looking like? You know, what's my tone of voice like?
Yep.
Right. Then you have some people who
they just go.
They just don't care.
Yeah, they just don't care.
So being self-aware is very important. Mature people welcome people into their life who are better than them. If I'm the best person in the room, I'm in the wrong room.
You're in the wrong room. Yeah.
If I'm the best person in the room, I'm in the wrong room. If I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room.
Yep.
So, yeah, we're here to collaborate, not compete.
Yep.
I'm comparing myself to people because I'm competing with them. And we need to be collaborating with one another.
Absolutely.
Not only that, we need to be celebrating one another.
Yeah.
When somebody's better than you, celebrate them.
And sometimes that's hard to do.
It is.
You know, because then like you get to that point of like, oh man, I wish I would have gotten that promotion. Or, I wish I would have done that. But like, yeah, it's celebrating the other people's accomplishments and stuff. Even if you were in competition with that person to get that certain thing.
Been there, man. One of my best friends in the Air Force got promoted to a position before me. And so we were peers.
Yeah.
And then he got promoted to a position and I had to work for him. And you know what I did? I went to him and I said, Scott, I'm here for you.
Yep.
Whatever you need, I want to make your job as easy as possible. I'm here for you.
Yep.
And then within a year, guess what happened? I got promoted and I went above him. And guess what he did?
The same thing.
Right. Collaboration, not finally we're in with this. God made you. He gave you your gifts, your talents. He gave you your personality. He gave you your flaws.
Yep.
He gave you all that stuff. Give it back to him.
Yep. That's right.
Live for him.
That's right.
Understand he's got a plan for you. He knows what he has for you. Stop comparing yourself to other people. Don't worry about those things. Just live for God. And I guarantee you, your self-esteem, your low self-esteem will turn around.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, again, hey, we're here for you. If you got any questions, you can reach us through our website, www.nextstepmen.org. Thank you, Robert.
Yeah,
I know it was a good discussion for you.
Yes, yeah, a lot
near
of fun.
and dear to your heart. So have a great day.